to Fash the Nation, heard only on the TRS Radio Network.
Hello and welcome back. Hour 2, FTN here. Hope you enjoyed those Albion dispatches from Atlas and Alpha the Average there in the break. They're opening up Hour 2 here with a good old-fashioned news roundup. We have it subdivided into 3 sections: the good, the nuanced, and the Jewish. And we're beginning here with a story from Bismarck, North Dakota, aren't we, Jess?
Yeah, so this is something that maybe this will become a regular bit. I don't know. I sort of put this in here because these stories all sort of neatly fit into these categories. And there are actually some good stories. I guess you could equate that with white pill in some way. But yeah, one of the top ones that came to the list is Bismarck, North Dakota is the first city to consider a refugee ban under Trump's EO. So we've talked about this before. Trump put out this executive order, which we surmised at the time would have an intended effect, and it sure did. 100 mayors across the U.S. are demanding more refugees. It's counterintuitive, I know, but Trump goes out there and throws his weight around and says, we're gonna allow cities to ban refugees if they want or not. And it's like, in this day and age, in the current year, what are people going to do when they're put to that shit test? What are Bugman mayors and the like going to do in these cities across the country? And what do? They say, give us even more refugees. So it's kind of, this attempt at, let's stop the refugees from coming in, which Trump, to his credit, has done through his administration. I mean, the refugees coming into the country have slowed to a trickle. It's very small number of people, but now he's putting it up to these cities. And what was this? 100 mayors. In a letter to Secretary Pompeo last month, 88 mayors, 88 from Denver, Colorado, Columbia, South Carolina, urged Trump to end his executive order that gives American communities more veto power over whether they want refugees settled in their communities. The mayor said that more refugees are needed to bring about, quote, cultural vibrancy and diversity to their often small towns, though they admit refugees are an initial tax burden on taxpayers. They wrote this letter and, wanted Trump to do something and so on and so forth.
Well, this is funny because this executive order doesn't give these cities the right to like determine their own refugee quota. Like if Columbia, South Carolina says we want 1 million refugees, this doesn't allow them to circumvent the State Department procedure and bring in as many as they want. What this executive order does is, within the already reduced number of refugees being brought to the U.S., it allows these communities to determine whether or not they would like to take a share of those. Right. So these mayors coming out here and saying we need more of them. They already have the right to accept refugees if they so choose. Right. That's not what is being done. They're not being prohibited from taking refugees if they want them. They're being allowed. But no, these mayors are coming out and putting on their life jackets and standing in front of the White House with the Refugees Welcome banner and saying that, yes, to enrich and bring cultural vibrancy and diversity to the local communities, these refugees are needed. They concede, interestingly, that they are a tax burden. They receive initial assistance upon arriving in the United States. No mention here about the rape burden, about the school burden, about the education burden, about the what was the name of that small town that we covered? The towns that have to end up dumping millions and millions of dollars into their education system, millions of dollars that they don't have in order to accommodate these migrant children. Worthington was the name of the town.
Worthington, Minnesota. Well, yeah. So one city, though, has decided to put the brakes on this, and that is Bismarck, city of Bismarck, which is Burleigh County, home to about 95,000 people, could become, if Jews don't get involved and stop this, which they did in Worthington to make sure that the referendum sailed through, $38 million referendum to get more funding, borrow more money to pay for schooling for people who aren't from Worthington, people who don't belong in Worthington, people who have no appreciation of what Worthington is giving them faux free. Bismarck is throwing down the gauntlet and saying they do not want to have refugees coming into their city at all, could become one of the first local governments to do so since President Trump issued his order. The city postponed a vote last week when more than 100 people showed up and overflowed the commission's normal meeting space. Man, people must have gotten really riled up in Bismarck for some reason. Monday night's meeting will be held in a middle school cafeteria to accommodate public interest that Chairman Brian Bittner said is the most intense he's seen in more than a decade on the commission. Though he declined to predict which way the commission could go, he said he would vote against accepting additional refugees. Based Brian Bittner. The overwhelming public opinion is clear to me that I think if you vote for it, you're not going to be reelected if you choose to run again. This is, I guess, Bismarck, North Dakota is like one of the last places where there are healthy representatives in office. Brian, better watch your back, bud, because this ain't good. Republican Governor Doug Burgum said, went cucked so hard, just cuck my shit up, fam. Doug Burgum said last month that North Dakota would continue accepting refugees where local jurisdictions agreed, and his spokesman said that the government saw it as a local decision. Soon after, Cass and Grand Forks counties, which are home to the state's largest city, Fargo, and third largest city, Grand Forks, respectively, declared that they would continue taking refugees, just as perhaps Trump intended. Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney said refugees were needed to boost the city's economy and that 90% were fully employed within 3 months. Oh, so magnanimous of you, Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney. Oh, they're all employed. Who is unemployed? Who didn't get a job? Who got pushed out of their job for these people, you fucking piece of shit?
There definitely is not a shortage of these low-skill, low-wage jobs for, I don't know, high school students to do, or people to take on as a second income because they haven't seen a raise at their primary job for decades.
Yeah.
No, just I'm sure that there's an overabundance of economic opportunity in Grand Forks County, North Dakota.
Yeah. Well, there actually is an abundance of opportunity in North Dakota recently because of the influx of people to work in the mining industry, the oil extraction industry. So they have seen a major increase in job availability, and actually they have more jobs than there are people. A lot of people have moved to North Dakota to go after these jobs, and in fact, in some local Walmarts, they don't even put the product on the shelf. They just like roll the pallet jacks out onto the floor with the pallets of product, and people just pick it from the floor because they don't have people to. Why would you work stocking shelves in Walmart if you can go work on the Bakken, right? In extracting oil. So there is a need for jobs, but there is also a need for cheap labor, and that would otherwise be done by white people for living wages that they wouldn't accept shit wages, but they got to bring these people in. So that's what they're going to do. And that's what they've been doing. And Bismarck is like, we're not going to do it. But all of a sudden, just like in Worthington, when there's any sort of local resistance to this burgeoning third world migration, whether it's resistance to globo homo, whether it's resistance to just taking out excessive loans to pay for expansion of schools for people who aren't of your community, anytime there's any sort of a resistance, all of a sudden you have this AstroTurf effort to say that, no, we love refugees and call, Brian Bittner a racist and attack him and attack people that stand up against these policies of bringing in more refugees. But there are white pills to be found here. Shirley Dickshorn. And, we're making fun of her name, but it is a very good Scandinavian name, Dykshorn, Dickshorn. Probably saying it wrong, but she's the vice president for Lutheran Services, which handles all of North Dakota's refugee resettlement cases. Said her agency used to handle about 400 cases per year, but that number dropped to just 124 in fiscal year 2019. This is where I was giving Trump a little credit because those refugees have fallen off. Remember the stories, James, about all the storage units of like furnished apartments and food and things that these cucks like fund for these refugees. They won't help homeless. They won't help people in their own community. They won't help the starving veteran standing on the corner who is drug addicted thanks to Sackler. But they will give tons of money to these organizations. And in North Dakota, people are wondering, like, oh, why isn't it Catholic? Well, in these places like North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, there are more Lutherans because they're more Scandinavian. So it's the Lutheran Church that has been subverted and taken over by these people. And you have these refugee resettlement organizations roosting up inside of Lutheran organizations. She resettled 24 refugees in Bismarck in fiscal year 2019 after resettling just 22 in fiscal year 2018. Then she says, Burleigh County had been projected to get no more than 25 refugees annually in the coming years. So it looks like Dick Shoren's going to be out of a job soon. We always look at the capacity of a community to handle these, she said. I'm trying to understand the basis for believing how 25 people, why would 25 people dramatically change the fabric of the community? Oh, did you have a fucking problem with that when it was 400 people per year, Shirley? When you're riding high on your refugee resettlement, and probably then you probably were saying to people, "Oh yeah, what's 400 people going to do to the community? What are they going to do?" Just shut your fucking mouth. All these people, dude. Just drop this. This is the kind of stuff that gets me triggered. I don't understand why 25 people. I can just picture her standing there with her like frumpy look and her shitty little sweater, and just like she's this like do-gooder, and she's a white lady, presumably, ostensibly, but yeah, I mean, well, I can't believe these 25 black people, dude. Just this shit just pisses me off.
And the bob haircut and those like horn rim glasses, just like yeah.
What does it say? Well, what does it say to the rest of the country when a county where your capital city is located chooses not to participate in bringing refugees into the? Shut the fuck up. Fuck.
Don't want to be on the wrong side of history, do you?
Yeah.
Oh God. And this program was started in 1948. What kind of refugees were being brought in that time? I wonder what types of people were being brought in.
Yeah, well, that's the key. That's the key part of this. Yeah, the program has been in existence in North Dakota since 1948. It's like, yeah, well, why did that happen? Who was coming there? Who was making sure those people were coming there? And and I haven't looked up Shirley Dick Shoren, by the way. I haven't smashed that early life. I doubt she even has an early life to smash. But yeah, I mean, oh man, it's like, what does it say about Shirley Dick Shoren? What does it say about you and the Lutheran Church? And what does it say about all the homeless people that are in North Dakota? Because I'm sure there are. What does it say about the poor people in your community that you're ignoring in order to bring these people in? Oh, that's not my job. I'm in charge of refugee resettlement. Oh, really? That's your excuse? That's what you're going to say? Fucking piece of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then there's the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, which works with the Lutheran Social Services, is one of the 3 national organizations that is suing to block
Trump's executive order.
Yeah, block Trump's executive order. There we go.
Yeah.
The group's president and chief executive, get a load of this, Krish Omara Vignaraja.
Yeah. President and chief executive of Lutheran Social Services in North Dakota, Krishna Omara Vignaraja, is the person in charge of this. Yeah. Okay. Right.
So, like, I can't tell if that's like, dude, Krish is one of those names. Like, that could be something like Irish shorthand, but I think in this case we're looking at
this is not
Indian.
not an Irish person, my guy.
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering, where does the Omara come from?
Oh, it's just that they just. I mean, I have seen this before where they pick up shit like this. They just do shit like that. They do the O apostrophe just for the fuck of it. Oh, I mean, in this article, okay. Well, they interweave this story, which we're totally ignoring on purpose because I don't give a fuck about Ruben Panchal, this guy who was forced to leave war-torn Sudan, and they weave this into the article about like how important his life has been in North Dakota, and they say at the end, this is the Washington Times, by the way. This is the Washington Times, which is supposed to be a quote-unquote conservative newspaper, is weaving in Panchal into the story, and of course at the end they give this cute little anecdote about how he is really becoming an upper Midwesterner now that he occasionally drops "you betcha" into the conversation. He's like, "Hi, I'm here to rape you." Yep, you betcha. Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Panchal, picking up your 4th welfare check of the week.
Yeah,
you betcha.
Yeah, you betcha. Hey, Mr. Penchel, would you like a jury of other South Sudanese in this conviction or in this trial for murder charges? You betcha. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I like his magnanimousness here at the end of this article, where, he says, quote, "Honestly, North Dakotans have been very welcoming to me, and I give North Dakota credit for helping people like me lead better lives. It wasn't my choice to come to North Dakota, but I'm glad I did. Big time."
Big time. Yeah, not this time.
Bigly.
Yeah, not
He's
this time.
bigly glad that he.
Did you not want to say magnanimity because you might sound like a black guy trying to sound smart? Equanimity,
Yeah, well.
magnanimity.